I was hoping a full house. This was a dream come true for me because I've been waiting to present in this main hall, and then finally they said like, hey, there's a late breaking opening slot. Do you want to present? I said, yeah, why not? And I didn't know they're going to put me in the main hall, so thanks to GIDS for putting me here. And I've been given 30 minutes. So I don't have time to put up a PPT or whatever, right? So that's my PPT for you today. My name is Lohith GN. That's my short URL. If you want to know more about me, go to about.me/Kashyapa, and I tweet at the handle Kashyapa, and I'm, as the presenter said, I'm a Microsoft MVP. So today we're going to be looking at a specific JavaScript library called as Vue.js. It's kind of spelled as Vue, or the name is Vue, or Vue, whatever, the noun. You can pronounce any way you want. This was actually, kind of created by a gentleman called as Even You. He used to be working in Google, but not on the Angular team, but he was in some creative labs, team in Google. What he did was he started creating this particular library as a side project, as a hobby project, right? And then at that point of time, I'm talking about 2014, React just took off, right? Angular 1.x or whatever you call it, it was already there, but people started figuring out like, it's okay, fine to start with, but slowly we have performance problem. The more number of watches you have on the screen, the more slower your page starts to get, right? So he started looking at all these things. React started doing some good stuff with Shadow DOM, all those things, and then people started liking React. He started mixing good things about probably some things in Angular, some things in React, and then he started creating something called Vue.js. And I kind of, by the way, let me tell you, I don't like Angular 1.x personally. I like Angular 2 very much, but this kind of got me intrigued because you can just start working with Vue by just dropping the file, as we call it. If you work more in the JavaScript world, you come across this particular terminology like drop the file, get going, right? So that's what I'm going to do now. So without much further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go to Visual Studio Code, the fantastic editor that's out there, cross-platform. So let me bring up Visual Studio Code. Okay, this guy will not allow me to do one more. So what I'm going to do is I already created a folder called as GIDS. And I'm going to just right-click on this, and then I'm going to say, hey, open in code. So that's one of the fantastic things Visual Studio Code allows you to do. So this is a text editor. I don't have anything much. In the meantime, what I've done is, beforehand, I've already installed a particular NPM module called as Light Server. Fantastic server created by John Papa and one more guy. What it does is, you have any folder, and I want an HTTP kind of a server-based serving to be done, I can just say light server on this command line, and then this whole folder now becomes a web server, a web application. So that's what I'm going to use now. So remember, I said I want to start with dropping off the files. I'm not going to go and then tell you where you get the files, but basically it's available on Vue's installation page. I've just downloaded Vue.js. That's all. So if you want to know how much is the, the size of that particular file, so let's go take a quick look at the size script. This is 235 KB, right? I'm using a dev version because I'm just want to show you a couple of stuff on the command line. But if this is zipped or minified or anything, it's going to be much more less than 235 KB, which is fine, right? I'm okay with that size. So I just dropped Vue.js on the scripts folder. Now, what I want to do is I want to come here and then create a new file here. I'm going to say index.html, right? And let's quickly scaffold an HTML here. So all I've done is I've said, hey, scripts contains Vue.js. There is a div ID script, and then I need to get a script file now, app.js. That's the convention that we all follow. The main entry point for your web application is usually named as app.js so that you got to go there and then start looking at it. So I'm going to go back to scripts, and I will add a new file, app.js, and I can just start doing this now, new Vue, and then, okay, it's a capital V. And then all I need to do is I need to tell it on which element should this particular Vue instance be created, right? You can say body, or I already have a div with the ID app. So if you notice here, I have a div ID app here. So I'm going to just go in and say like, hey Vue, what you do is, on the page, you're going to find a div with the ID app. Yeah, please go ahead, instantiate that as a Vue object. So I'm going to say hash app. So that's how typically we all do. That's it. So now I have the Vue running. But what do we do, right? So basically, we need some data to work with. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say, create a new, hope this is visible for all of you. So I'm going to create data object, create a message, and then I just say, hello, GIDS 2017, right? Now, what I can do is, since I've done app.js with all the setup, I can come back to the div ID is equal to app, and I just say, message. So this is called as string interpolation. That's one of the things that ECMAScript 2015 is bringing into the board. So having done this, you now have a single page applications running with Vue, right? So let me start running it. So what do I need to do? Well, remember I said light server, so I'm going to just say light server. So what this does is, it takes the whole folder, creates a web application for me without having to bring in Node or that, this everything. You know, it's just a quick prototype that I want to try, right? Okay, what did I miss? Let me check. Yeah, thank you. That's always the mistake that you do, right, with JavaScript. Semicolon instead of the comma, comma instead of the semicolon. So there you go. It says, hello, GIDS 2017, right? You know, let me bring it just a little bit. So there you go, hello, GIDS 2017. Now here's the interesting thing. I'm going to open up the console. And what I will do is, so let the console come up. And where is my console? Okay, here it is. So I will just say app dot, okay, let's do this trick. So what we can do is, we can actually take this into a new variable so that we get a global scope. Now let me refresh. And now here I can come in to the console, and then I can say like, you know, app.message is equal to, probably I will say hello world. My laptop is kind of giving me a hard time. There you go. Did you see? It changed. Sorry, I'm not able to kind of, let me see if I can increase the resolution here. Yeah. Did you see it says hello world? Well, I can go back here and then change like, you know, hello, let's say app.message is equal to hello Lohith. And it's going to change. So what I'm trying to point out is the reactivity. Vue being so small, it's give you those kind of reactivity wherein you can do whatever you want. You're just worrying about the functional logic of your application. The DOM manipulation is all taken care by Vue, right? So now, this is fine. This is a very simple stuff that we are doing. So let's do something interesting. So I'm going to just do a split window here, and I'm going to bring in app.js to the left-hand side, and then this one. So what if you want to go ahead and then do something like reverse this whatever message that you're seeing, right? Or have a input or all those things that you want to do. Well, simple. So you can actually come back here, and then let's say, I'm going to create a method here. You've got to say methods, and then let's say reverse message. That's the function that I'm going to create. So all it does is, it's going to just reverse the message. So what you can do is, we can say this dot message. Here, this is where Vue stands differently. Notice in JavaScript, we all know how the this concept is very confusing, right? The this takes the context of the current executing function. But in this case, Vue does it very brilliantly. When I say this.message, it knows that I already have a data object, and then it has a message. So it knows that I'm trying to go change that message. So I can just come in here and then say like, you know, this.message dot split, and I'm going to just say this, reverse it, and then I want it to be joined. Right? That's all I've done. I just changed the message to reverse it. But how do I do that, right? So what I can do is, I can come back here inside the div, and then I can put an input, control here. let's say input type, or not the input type, it's going to be the button. So I'm going to put a button here. And on the button, what we will do is, VUE brings in certain concept called as directives. So I'm going to say now a directive here which says that, hey, whenever this button is clicked, I want you to execute a message, a particular function, right? So I can just say v-on.:click is equal to reverse message, right? So that's all. I'm just calling a method that's already written, and I'm just saying v-on::click. So that means on click event, I want you to call this particular function. That's all it means there. So let's see if this works. Oh, I did not name my button, so I'm going to say reverse message, and let's put a break tag here so that the button comes down neatly. And there you go. Well, don't worry, it's big because I kind of increased the resolution. And there you go. It reversed the string, right? But I didn't have to do anything specifically like what you do in other languages. So the VUE allows you to do all these modern concepts with fairly simple one drop of the file, right? You know, that's what I'm trying to say here. Now, you can do pretty much any things with this. For example, what I can do is, if you don't want the interpolation like this, you can always come in here and then say, like, you know, put a div and then use another directive called as v-text. I can just say v-text is equal to, well, what property do you want to get the text from your object, right? I can just say message and come back here, and then we still have the div spitting it out, the message, right? That's fine, but if I do a mouse over on this, probably this particular text, I want a title to be coming up, but the title needs to come from your data object again, dynamically or whatever it is. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go back to data object here, and then I will say title, and then I'm going to say this is title for the div, you know, some arbitrary text that I'm going to put up. Now, on the div, what you can do is, you can pretty much use another directive called as v-bind, but this v-bind works on the properties of the element. So I have a div element, and the div has a title property. So probably I can say, like, you know, title is equal to title. Let's see if we get that. And there you go. I'm not sure if you're able to see that, but let me try to zoom in. Yeah, it's going to go away if I try to zoom in. But you got to believe me when I say that there's a title coming up there. This is a title for the div, right? So that's another directive for you. Now, these are just some of the surface that I've scratched within 30 minutes. I've already eaten up 15 minutes or so. So quickly, what I want to show is something that I built using VUE with a very minimal line of codes, right? You know, assume you have given a task. I hope everybody has seen the GIDS 2017 conference page, right? So if you go to Developer Summit and then conference.html, and probably you get a requirement wherein, like, you know, this whole page needs to be created. There are 173 sessions for the 10 minutes left. Okay, thank you. There are 173 sessions. I don't know why the Wi-Fi is not bringing down the data. Not sure what happened. Yeah, I'm connected. So, but yeah. But not sure what's happening to this guy. I know, I connected to the speaker, but what is happening is okay, sold out, okay, so that's good. Oh yeah, so what I wanted to kind of tell was, let's assume you have a requirement to create this whole page, which is like, you know, at least show Scott's image should be there, the track he's speaking in, and then the title of his, and then of course his name. And then probably some color in the background or whatever it is. But there are 173 sessions, right? You have been given the JSON data to you. They're told, like, okay, go ahead, ping this, you get the JSON data. But I want a page with similar kind of looking stuff. How much time do you think it's going to take anybody? Just take a guess. Any guess? So you got to create a page. When I go to that page, all 173 items have to come in. But somehow they have to mimic the display that you're seeing there. An image, a track, a title, a speaker name, right? Probably you're going to say, like, you know, hey, I'm going to take a couple of hours because, you know, CSS, this, everything, and then probably some 100 lines of code, right? But let me bring up the code that I just finished, you know, before this session. Let me show you this. So this is all I had to do. So here is, let me not. So you understood how you instantiate a view, right? So I've done the same thing. I have a data, message, name, and then notice there's a sessions, right? VUE gives you a life cycle event, right? When that particular view instance is created or a component is created, I get an event there saying like, hey, on created, I want you to do that. So all I did was I wrote a fetch data method, right? I sat down and then screen scraped the same page that I show you, GIDS 2017, and then got the JSON data out of that. So I have all the 173 session as JSON data. So what I'm doing is I've kept it inside a GIDS.JSON. So I'm pinging GIDS.JSON, and notice here, I'm using this thing called as this.$HTTP. That's again something VUE gives you. You do not have to recreate XML HTTP or use the JAX or nothing. There is a specific module called as VUE resource. You just bring it in, you get the HTTP client out of the box. So all I had to do was this $HTTP.get that particular API. Then, if you are a JavaScript programmer and you have never heard of promise, better go back and then read JavaScript again now, because we are going the promise way. Nobody is doing callback way anymore, right? So that's a promise. I'm saying when you go get the data, then do this, right? So what it should do after getting the data? Well, I'm just creating a session and then pushing it into the array, and then notice there this.sessions is equal to sessions. So where is sessions? That's the object that the variable that I created on the VUE instance itself. The moment I do this, it goes ahead and then updates the UI. So I did not show one thing in the UI, that's the looping construct. So let's see how easy it is to loop through this data, right? So this is all it takes. Div v-var. So that's again a directive, the looping directive that we have. For session in sessions, I want you to do this. That is all I've said. So there are 173 sessions, right? So 173 boxes will be created. I'm just creating a div with a border, with a background color, or whatever it is. And notice how am I doing the data, kind of manipulations here, data binding. I'm just saying session.track, session.pick, session.title, session.speaker. That's it. I'm done with creating a mock-up of GIDS 2017 with probably, I can go better this lines of code. I don't have to do this many lines of code at all, right? I can better that. But yeah, you get the idea here. All I need to do was instantiate view, create a variable here called as sessions on line number 13, listen to the created, in the fetch data method, go get the data, put it into the array. That is all I had to do. Now if I run this, so let's go back to the terminal, and then I'm going to go back to app 2, and then I will say light server. And we should have got the data. So let's see where I bonkered. How am I doing on time? Who's the timekeeper? 5 minutes left? Okay. So let me see what I missed at the last. Okay, not from the server was trying to find a matching. Okay, not this one. I'm sorry. There's so many things that we speakers keep doing it, right? We keep multiple copies and then hope one works. Right? You quickly switch over to the other one and say like, hey, yeah, this works. So that's what happened with me too again here. There we go. Right? So this, I just finished it just before coming onto the stage, that whole HTTP block that you saw on the style sheet that you saw. Yeah. Right? I was able to mock up the GIDS complete conference page that you saw. This is the actual data that's there on the conference. I sat down, got down the JSON data out of that, and then that's what you're seeing here. There's a track coming up, GIDS.Web.mobile Tuesday, then there's Scott's photo, his title, and then his name. And then like this, it's basically I have not done any paging, I have not done any filtering, sorting, or whatever. But yeah, imagine what things that you can do, right? I'm getting all 173, and then notice here the page is pretty fast, and then it doesn't hurt anything, because 173 is a very small number to get the data. What I've shown you here is, yes, there is yet another framework, right? We started with jQuery. So there is a saying in my circle. So I have very good friends here. We keep saying that nobody does JavaScript anymore. Everybody does jQuery, right? People are so confused about that, saying like, what is JavaScript? I do jQuery, right? I've heard that. I'm not making that up. So you had jQuery, then you had Angular, then you have React, you have Aurelia, you have Vue.js. So basically what I'm trying to say here is, well, it's like different, I don't know, probably masala dosas. I hope you know what masala dosa is. Oh, yes. Have it tomorrow breakfast maybe, and then. So Shanti Sagar's masala dosa may be good because his chutney inside is better. Or somebody else's masala dosa may be good because the palya or whatever the vegetables inside is good. But it's up to you. You got to figure out what makes good for you, what's easy for you, what's understanding for you, right? As I said, I'm a big Angular 2 fanatic. I like the way Angular 2 is moving. But this was like, you just drop the file, you get whatever you're looking for in modern JavaScript frameworks like Angular or Aurelia or anything. I did not show you complete stuff. There is components available within Vue.js. You can create components and then start composing your whole application as small modules or small components, right? What I showed you was the JavaScript way, meaning you just take a JS file, put it into your project, and then start working with it. But how many of you have heard of this new modern build concepts called as Webpack or Browserify or whatever? Has anybody heard of Webpacks here? Well, this is built for Webpack too. There is examples wherein you can make use of ES6. That's the next version of JavaScript. What you saw me was writing plain old ES5, ECMAScript 5, the current JavaScript that browsers understand. But I want to make use of ECMAScript 6, Babel, TypeScript. You're welcome. You can always use that. Vue supports Webpack. Vue supports Browserify. Vue supports a lot many things. It's just that within 30 minutes, what can I show you? Well, the starting point. Okay, this is Vue. This is how you use it. This is how easy to get going with it. I hope it kind of kindles your brain to go back and then at least, okay, we're starting a new project. Let's give it a try. Let's take a look at this Vue and then see if this is what works out for us. Believe me, the JS file that I show you, 235 KB, if you use the minified version, it's much more smaller, right? Well, within 30 minutes, that's all I can do for Vue.js. So thank you very much for sitting through this talk. If there are any questions, I believe I have a couple of minutes or so, or no? I have
maybe one or two quick questions.
Maybe 1 or 2 questions if anybody has a question. Yeah. Difference between Vue and Angular. So this basically, from the surface, everything looks the same. You have the same component technology, you have the same shadow DOM kind of things, but where it changes is the philosophy between the Vue and the Angular itself, right? So underlying techniques of DOM manipulation, yeah, there are certain subtle changes. Angular probably is doing the diffing, and here also, Vue also does the diffing, but he may have his own algorithm to do the diff. I have not looked at how he does the diff. For example, when I make a change in the JavaScript, if the DOM has to be updated, yeah, there is a watcher or somebody looking at it like, okay, this message, this guy changes or that guy changes, I need to update somebody. Yeah, so those kind of diffing. Like for example, the DOM old state to the DOM new state, how do I go and then patch it up? That's where the changes lies. But people feel, it's again, JavaScript is opinionated, and people feel this is lightweight compared to Angular. To some extent, I'm kind of falling towards that because Angular 2 is great, but getting started, I want to set it up. I want to, day one, set everything up and then get going. You're going to face a little bit of hiccups here and there because Angular 2 cannot be used the way I used Vue. I just dropped the .js file. No, you cannot do that with, you need something called as the module loader. The module loaders are on the browser or Webpack, which is an offline kind of stuff, meaning you build everything, package everything, minify everything, and then start going. You don't want to do browser-based module loading. It's going to slow down your stuff, right? So that's where Webpack comes in. Webpack does all the things offline. Then you put it up, then they're all fast. So that's the only changes that's there. It's the philosophy between Vue and Angular in terms of the core principles. Any other question? I think I have one, last one, yeah. Well, Vue supports ES6. So whatever code that I wrote ES5. but you're free to write it in TypeScript or you're free to write it in ECMAScript 6, and Babel, all these guys know how to transpile. Yeah, so that is the ECMAScript 5 way where you say this, but if you go the route of Babel or those kind of stuff, it is a completely different syntax. For example, in ECMAScript 6, what you can do is you can say import app, and then app has a specific directive or whatever it is, those kind of stuff. Yeah, you can do that way when you go that route. Thank you very much. I think that's the 2 questions that I can say. Thank you very much. You've been a great audience.